Webcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome to the Wyoming Women's Business Center's 2021 webinar series. Today's presentation is Easy Ways to Manage Passwords, presented by Laura Baker from Cyber Wyoming. I'm Veronica Donahue from our COVID-19 support program, and I'll be your moderator today. You will notice the GoToWebinar control panel on the right side of your screen, and I want to call special attention to the questions panel and chat box. If you have any questions or comments during the webinar today, I'd like you to use those to communicate with us. And as a reminder, all participants are muted to minimize background noise. This webinar is being recorded, and a link to the video recording will be emailed to all registered attendees shortly following our presentation today. And immediately following the presentation, a survey will launch. And I do want to ask that you please complete this survey, as it provides us and our funding partners with valuable information. Our guest speaker today is Laura Baker, co-founder and executive director of Cyber Wyoming. So we'll turn it over to Laura for our presentation after a quick introduction of the Wyoming Women's Business Center for those of you who aren't familiar with us already. The Wyoming Women's Business Center is a nonprofit organization whose mission is to enable and empower Wyoming entrepreneurs, with a special emphasis on women who are economically or socially disadvantaged. And we do this through 4 distinct programs. The first is our business counseling and training program, which is always free. The second is our microfinance programs, which offer microloans and individual development accounts. Third is the Artist Development Center we run in conjunction with our Works of Wyoming store and Art Connect Gallery in downtown Laramie. And the fourth is our COVID-19 support program, which we launched early last summer. And this webinar is brought to you by the COVID-19 support program, and I want to call special attention to the list of services available to Wyoming business owners when they become clients. You can sign up by going to our website at wyomingwomen.org or contact me directly for more information, and you can see my contact information at the bottom of the screen. So without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Laura Baker, and Laura's screen should appear soon. I'm going to make her an organizer. Okay. And I just want to thank Laura really fast for joining us today and sharing some of her expertise with our audience. We really appreciate it. All right, Laura, go ahead.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So thank you so much for giving me the time today. This will be a short presentation. We'll probably get you out a little bit early so you can eat, but hopefully it'll generate a lot of good questions. So Cyber Wyoming, let me just tell you a quick, a little bit about it. We don't sell hardware, software, or technology services, and we are not an IT company. We're a nonprofit organization that focuses on helping small businesses create a non-technical cyber leader in the office. We help you manage your security needs through people, policies, processes, and culture. And we do this using the Made Safe in Wyoming program, which is the program that is also used for Wyoming cybersecurity competition for small businesses. And I'll talk about that at the end of the presentation. Cyber Wyoming developed the Made Safe in Wyoming program because when you buy a computer, no one tells you how to safely use it. You're just supposed to know, like it comes automatically downloaded to your brain out of the ether, but we all know that's not realistic. So we made this Made Safe in Wyoming program to train real people in small businesses about common sense cybersecurity. And that's why we're here today. And we're also supported by these amazing community-minded Wyoming companies. So let's talk about passwords. Do you feel a little like this picture when you're trying to manage all your passwords? If you do, then you're not alone, because I can tell you I feel this way too. We all have a lot of passwords to manage, personally and professionally. And like I said before, your computer doesn't come with a tutorial on how to do passwords. So let's talk about passwords a little, and maybe I can give you some ideas that will work for you. So first, password hygiene. Whenever I think about hygiene, I think about brushing my teeth. I don't know why, but that's what I do. So when I think about what that means to me is maintenance, order, and cleanliness. And this same idea applies to passwords. The most common questions I hear about passwords are, how often should you change them? And what should a password look like? Well, I have good news for you on this front. First, if you don't, number one, you reuse passwords on different websites and systems. And number two, if you do choose long, complex passwords, then you don't have to change them very often. But the bad news is that this makes password management harder because you have to use a different one on every system, and they have to be long. So what's the solution? Passphrases. Let's compare. My dog's name is Nico, and I got her in 2012. A typical password for a lot of people is their dog's name and the year they got their dog. So Nico 2012. It could be a very typical password, and it can be cracked in 2 hours. But now let's try a similar phrase and add a character or two. Nico 2012 is black, and the character A is now an @ and there's an exclamation point at the end. And look at the difference. 2 hours versus 1 trillion years to guess a password, and it's just as easy for me to remember. Obviously, I don't use this password. This is just an example. And I want to caution you never to put your real password into one of these online password checkers. It's safe to put in some similar ones to give yourself practice on picking good passphrases, but don't put in your actual one. So to review, if you choose a longer passphrase and keep a separate passphrase for every system you use, you don't have to change your passwords as often. And we'll talk about how to manage all those different passwords in a minute. But first, let's talk about the second most frequent question I get, when to change your password. In the Made Safe in Wyoming program, we recommend checking a website called haveibeenpwned.com. And that's down, the link is right there, haveibeenpwned.com. And we recommend that you check it on a quarterly basis. Since your email address is often used as your user ID, you can see if any websites that you use have lost your password or other information to the bad guys. So note that bob@yahoo.com is not a lucky guy. His email has had 206 data breaches, and thus he needs to change his password on all of those 206 sites. Now, this may be an extreme example. Most people may need to change 3. But as you scroll through Bob's 206 data breaches, you can see each website that lost Bob's data and what the compromised data was. So for instance, on babynames.com, Bob's email address and password were compromised. Bob would need to go to babynames.com and change his password, or if he doesn't use babynames.com anymore, he could delete his account. But that's not all. This is why you aren't supposed to reuse passwords. If the hackers get Bob's email address and password from baby names, then they're going to try the same email and password combination on Armor Games and Binweevil, some of the other apps that are on this, or any other apps they think Bob might use. So let's talk about ways to manage all these different passwords. It doesn't have to be hard. Here are some low, medium, and high-tech ways to manage all these different passwords, and you can pick which one works best for you. Even if you like one method best, keep your personal and work passwords separate. I guarantee you that if the hackers track down where Bob works, they're going to try his baby name's password in combination with his work email address to see what work systems they can get into, and that's pretty concerning. What I just described is called social engineering, and there's some really good examples out there on video if you're interested. But sometimes the best thing is to Google yourself and see what comes up. That's what the hackers do. It's really easy to find. I started with a paste bin search and found Jack Fuse, or Jack the Boss, and found out that he's the operating partner and co-founder for Blackhorn Ventures. When I looked at his bio on the Blackhorn site, I found that he is also a Stanford lecturer, went to Dartmouth, has an MBA from Stanford, and he's into emerging tech like genomics and electric vehicles. I also found that Blackhorn is based in Colorado. When I added Colorado to the search, I found out that former Colorado Governor Bill Ritter joined Blackhorn Ventures in 2018 and knows Jack Fuse. This was all found out in less than 5 minutes. and it shows you how important it is to properly manage your passwords. So first, let's talk about the low-tech method of managing passwords. It's easy. Write it down. Keep one notebook for personal and another for professional. Label the notebook something innocuous. Don't name it passwords and user IDs. A burglar will not take a notebook labeled Wyoming history, for instance. Lock it up in a desk drawer or filing cabinet when it's not in use. And plan for a disaster like a fire and make copies routinely and store it at another site in a lockbox, a bank's, or maybe a bank security deposit box, or your attorney might even store it for you if it isn't too many pages. If you want to step it up a bit, try the medium tech method. This is just writing it down electronically in a Microsoft Word file. Create separate Microsoft Word documents for both personal, excuse me, and work passwords and user IDs. Again, name your document something innocuous, like Wyoming history, just in case somebody gets snoopy. Excuse me. Type your user IDs and passwords into the document. Password protect it using the encrypt with password option in Microsoft Word. This is shown on the right side of your screen. You have to remember this password. So if you have a bad memory, you might want to use the low-tech method and write it down. Remember that hard drives can break and files can be infected with a virus. So back it up to a USB drive, store it offsite in a bank deposit box, or keep a copy in your cloud storage. And now for high-tech options. If you like apps, then you can get one to manage your passwords. Google has a new one that just came out called Google One, but they also have Google Authenticator that I know some people use. Some of these apps are free for personal use, but you do have to purchase licenses for business use, and they're usually about $3 a month per user. With these apps, you don't even see the password for each site. The passwords are encrypted, and you only have to remember the one password to get into the app. I would recommend checking out PC Magazine's recommendations for password managers. There are a lot of brands out there, and PC Mag is a great place to start. Let's talk about the difference between business and personal use next for these apps. Some apps are better for business and some are better for personal and family use. If you're looking for a business product, think about all the cloud systems that your employees have access to. How would you lock out an employee who leaves your company? There have been some embarrassing website and social media faux pas where angry ex-employees still had access and rerouted business websites to porn sites, for instance. You definitely want to avoid that hassle. Business password manager products have admin consoles where the administrator of the system can lock out any of the standard users. So if this is a concern to you, talk to a local IT company and ask them what product they would recommend and if they can demonstrate how to use the administration console for you. Or look for YouTube videos on the admin console and then choose the product that's right for you. So now that you have some ideas, which solution will work best for you personally and which one will work best for you professionally to manage all of your passphrases? We've covered some ideas for managing passwords. If you want to find out more about common sense solutions to small business security, we have a great free program, Wyoming Cybersecurity Competition for Small Businesses. Don't let the word competition intimidate you. The intent is to make it fun, but it's really just free one-on-one training that focuses less on tech and more on creating security-aware people, processes, and culture. In fact, the other day, a business signed up and said, I don't want to compete. And I said, no problem. We'll just forget to send in your judge's report. And she smiled and said, okay. The program starts on February 1st. Those that register early are more likely to win and can go at a leisurely pace. Winners speak at Wyoming Cybersecurity Conference. But if this makes you nervous, we can pre-record and stream your video, or we can forget to send in your judge's report. This is an opportunity to be trained, to be walked through topics like password management, hand in hand with us on all sorts of cybersecurity best practices for free, and possibly win and get tons of recognition. So for instance, if we had discussed passwords with you in the competition, The next step would be for us to help you create a password policy for your company. The best part, as I mentioned, it's free because of our members and sponsors. So take advantage of it. Our specialty is small businesses without IT help. And again, we focus on common sense solutions, people, processes, and culture. You don't have to be technical at all. There's a flyer with information in the handout section of the GoToMeeting panel if you would like more information for that. Kelly was really nervous at the beginning of the competition, but at the end, she's really confident about how to manage her company's cybersecurity efforts, and her company took second place. Thank you for your time, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Laura, I don't see any questions right now, but I thought it was really great that you hit on that hackers look at the whole person and they look at your personal, data online to attack and find those passwords. So it is really a comprehensive approach. You should try and take these management philosophies for your whole personal and professional life, because of course you don't want your password for your personal Gmail account to be the same as your professional account, right? So I really like that point. So I do see one question here, Laura. I'll just read it out to you. It is, do you suggest 2 entirely separate password managers for work and life?
Well, it kind of depends, but for instance, KeyPass is free, and a lot of people use that. Just friends of mine use that for personal, and then for work, they'll use something that has an administrative console, because KeyPass does not have one for that where you can lock out your employees if they leave. They'll use something that has an administrative console like Dashlane or LastPass. I've also heard of people using a password management system for business called Okta, O-K-T-A, but not in Wyoming. So I've been trying to work on some of my members and sponsors to say, hey, would you test this out and tell me if you like it or not before we recommend it to a whole bunch of people?
Right. I know I use 1Password because obviously now I have a million websites with accounts and I want to be able to keep track of them and not use the same password. And the 1Password app actually has a plan for business where you could have your business vault entirely separate from your personal vault. But of course, for the 2 low tech or medium tech, those would be separate. Is that right, Laura?
Right, that's right.
Okay, perfect.
And you could use like KeyPass for personal, and if you're a home-based business and it's just a one-man shop, you could also use you could create a separate account in KeyPass for business. It doesn't really allow for growth to employees, but if that's where you are today, again, it's free. So why not?
Of course. Yeah, I think that's probably something you want to keep in mind, is that are these passwords that you share with other people, or is it, a one-person shop? It looks like we have another question. What do you think about keeper security?
I actually don't. I know the brand name, but I don't really have any thoughts on it. I'm sorry. I can, if you would like, feel free to email me at info@cyberwyoming.org. I'll do a little bit of research and let you know.
Okay, and here is another question. Was patebin.com a place to check our login history?
No, Pastebin is a place where a lot of people put, well, they'll just paste anything that's text. So you might get some nefarious actors that go out there and, release a whole bunch of user IDs and passwords out there. The other thing that some of the uses are legitimate, however, and so, it's just a general site, Pastebin, Pastebin.com. Check it out, see what you think. I don't spend a whole lot of time there, but that's where I start if I'm having to research something for a demonstration like this.
And Laura, I have my own question for you. I use Google Chrome, and it always says, do you want to save this password? Would you recommend using your browser password manager, or do you have any advice for using your browser?
That's a great question. A lot of the cybersecurity experts, when your browser says, "Will you remember this credit card number?" or "Do you want me to remember this user ID and password?" most cybersecurity experts say, "Don't use it." You don't know if it's encrypted on the back end, and you don't know, who might be able to break into your browser and get that information.
Okay, so we have another question. Is keychain password on Mac a good thing or a bad thing to use?
That's another really good question. So actually, oddly enough, I was just talking to a Mac user the other day who I really trust and is very cybersecurity aware, and he uses it and he loves it. So, so based on, word of mouth, he likes it. So, check it out, see what you think.
Okay. And here's another question. Is there a certain browser that is safer or recommended by experts? Would you say like Explorer, Chrome, DuckDuckGo? Do you have any recommendation for the safe browser?
I just added the DuckDuckGo to my Chrome browser extension because I wanted to try it out, and I have not really seen any difference in productivity. So I'm going to keep going with DuckDuckGo because it has more privacy settings. The other thing that I've noticed is that if you go to a lot of webinars or government seminars that are online, their platforms most likely work with Chrome and Firefox, but they don't work with Internet Explorer or some of the other ones as well. So, and I remember way back when, several years ago when I was trying to make airline reservations or something, obviously before COVID, and I kept having problems with my baggage where I couldn't go to and reserve my baggage, and I realized that it was my browser. I was using Firefox at the time, and the website had been built for Internet Explorer and Chrome. Now this was a while back, before Edge. So I would say that, if you're having odd results and you're out there trying to do something online, switch browsers and see what happens, and then maybe that would be the one you go with.
Right, that's really good advice. I think that happens all the time where something just doesn't work. And, one of the first things you can do is switch browsers and try it in Firefox or try it on Chrome. But I'm not certain which one is safer for cybersecurity. I guess that also depends on your settings in your browser.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't think anything's 100% safe, and I'm probably just naturally cynical because of all the stuff I read every day. But it does, your privacy settings in your browser are very, very important.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, this is great information. I don't see any more questions coming in, so I think we can switch to our closing slides. And if anyone has any follow-up questions, they can email Laura at info@cyberwyoming.org, or possibly join the cybersecurity competition and really get a hold of your cybersecurity plan. All right, I'm just gonna switch. I think you might have to make me the presenter. Oh, here we go.
Okay.
Okay, the Wyoming Women's Business Center is made possible through several partnership agencies. Our primary funding comes from the U.S. Small Business Administration and the Wyoming Business Council, and we just want to thank them for all their support and assistance through all of our programs. And of course, if you're interested in that free business counseling and training, you can always contact our business counselor, Jonathan Howdeshell. His phone and email are on this slide, as well as my phone and email. If you're interested in those COVID-19 support program services that we mentioned before. We do have a full schedule of upcoming webinars that we're putting together for all of our fabulous clients. And the next one is Connection, Community, and Capital, which will be a live crowdfunding Q&A. So if you're interested in learning about crowdfunding or you have some questions, please feel free to join us this Thursday at noon. And make sure to check in on our website at wyomingwomen.org under the training tab to see all of our upcoming webinars and our past webinars. Or you can see our YouTube channel by going to youtube.com and searching Wyoming Women's Business Center. And while we close this webinar today, a survey is going to pop up on your screen. It's a quick 5-question survey, and I just ask that you stay online for a couple extra minutes and complete it for us. We read every survey, and it really helps us plan our upcoming calendar and improve our offerings. Thank you so much for attending, everyone, and thanks again, Laura, for sharing with us some great password management tips. Have a great rest of your Tuesday.